Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and you're on Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net. Go check it out. Since January 1 through April 5, according to Google Analytics, if you can believe all that, they say we've had 20,207 audience page views. That means it's not unique visitors, but it's how many pages on our site are looked at. To our guest, and our guest today is an old friend, Dr. Andrew Woods. Welcome, Dr. Woods.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Welcome again to Global TV. And Dr. Andrew Woods at one time spoke at several of our live conferences, and he's also been on our talk radio show, and this is Global TV. 99.9% of the audience for this program is going to be out across the next 12 months and worldwide, albeit about 70% US and Canada, and about 20% Europe, and about 9 or 10% Asia Pacific, and whatever's left over, Latin America, Middle East, and Africa.
Great.
However, we do have a growing audience in Mexico City, and in Rio and Sao Paulo. So we're very excited about that. And in Asia Pacific, just so you know, our fastest growth since January 1 has been India. Huge growth. And so we're doubling down in that regard. More about that later. So Dr. Andrew Woods has been living in China and working and teaching as well, and we're going to get into that. Prior to that, he has been in Vietnam and in the UK and even in parts of the US. But Dr. Andrew Woods, please do a better job introducing yourself today than I just did.
Well, I think you did a pretty decent job, Ed. Yeah, I do have a lot of frequent flyer points, as you can imagine. But I've always enjoyed travel. So when I was in my early 20s, my mother was from Ireland. So I decided I wanted to go not just and see it, but to go and live there. So that kind of started a lifelong passion of traveling around the world. I wound up in the UK, where I ran a soft skills training company. And then after that, while doing an MBA, I became very close with a group of students that were from China. And when the course was over, they said, well, why don't you come over and work with us? They owned an advertising firm in China. and went over, and just my eyes were completely opened up to the endless amount of possibilities, in particular at that time as China was just exploding.
In Shanghai or where?
Shanghai, yeah, double-digit growth across China, and just anything was possible. Since then, it's slowed down considerably, but still is on a pretty decent upward trajectory, if you will. So, I mean, I just had I had a wonderful time, had a lot of opportunity to do very exciting things, teaching at some of the world's leading universities. Had an opportunity to do work with LeBron James, with the Fulham Football Club. Just all kinds of stuff were possible at that time just by reaching out to people and telling them of the opportunities in China.
So did you at that time speak Chinese?
Not when I first got there. It was I would say I have a well-educated 9-year-old's level of Chinese now, so I'm open to making mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. It's a tonal language, as you may know, so the slightest variation on a tone can give a word a completely different meaning. So it's highly complicated, like a lot of expats, some carry on and some just kind of get to the level where they're very good at functioning in their own world. And that's kind of where I got to. And then I took it to another level. I started learning Chinese characters, which was very enjoyable, very complicated and frustrating. But yes, so the language is enough now to get by, but it was very difficult at the beginning.
So what about this issue of guangxi? I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. The idea of familia and family and relations.
Well, guangxi is an interesting topic because it is, I guess if you could compare it to what in the UK they call the old boys club. I think they might call it that in the US as well. It's your network of relationships that sort of, so, let's say you come to me and you say, I have a good friend whose son wants to get into the top university in China. So I might have a connection to someone that's high up in that university, and you call on me for that favor. In the idea, it's a network with reciprocity. So you look at me and you say, okay, I'm going to get you in that school, but then it's a balance of favors. So keeping that balance, once that balance is equal, guangxi is ended. But it's always, tipped in one or the other person's favor. Where it can become complicated, and this is the same in other countries, but where it can become complicated is when it starts to drift into corruption and you feel obliged to do something and it might be overstepping the boundaries. Where it actually originated from was hundreds of years ago when there was no legal system, and it was just a way of exchanging and bartering, but of favors.
Got it. Boy, that's interesting. Okay, so now you have lived in China and in the interior, not just in Shanghai, right?
It's very true. When I first went there, I worked for my friend's advertising company as a sort of a consultant. He was my friend. It was a great introduction to Chinese culture and life. I then made a partnership with a training company, and they used to send me all around China, going to cities that I had never heard of that had 10, 15 million people, and providing training seminars mostly to multinational companies. So, Mercedes might set up in Xi'an, or BMW might set up in these smaller tier 2, tier 3 cities. Excuse me. And they would need sort of to understand how to communicate with their Western business partners. Where I think a lot of these companies may have made a mistake is they taught the Chinese how to deal with the Western side, but not necessarily invested enough time teaching the Westerners how to deal with the Chinese side.
Right.
There's a lot of room for costly mistakes. So we tried to sort of be an in-between and teach these skills to get these guys to understand each other more, which was fascinating work.
So did you employ video training?
Yeah, this is going back 10 or 15 years. So technology, 10 years anyway. So technology in training has evolved considerably. And even over the pandemic, the use of, as we're doing now, it's become much more mainstream. So I think that, we were using sort of PowerPoints and case studies Occasionally, we would integrate videos into the presentations, but I think training, classroom training, and online training has evolved incredibly over the last even the last 2 years, really 2 or 3 years. So definitely those things, if we were to do them now, would incorporate more interactive activities and videos, etc.
So I want to ask a couple of questions for the benefit of our diverse audience.
Okay.
To what today in China, to what extent of the educated business population speak English?
That's a good question, and you know, I would say it varies to degrees of to certain levels. So if these people are Haigui, which is actually which literally translates to returning sea turtles. So if they've gone they've gone off to Australia, the US, the UK, generally they have a mid-level to an advanced level of English. But you know, contrary to popular belief, the levels of English among the average person in Shanghai, which is a very international city, or are quite low still. But that's fine. I mean, that's you know, they communicate daily in Chinese, and that's fine. But at the senior level, people are working in multinationals definitely have a pretty advanced level of English. So it just depends where you are. You can get caught in situations where, you know, you really have to pull out the translators. And of course, those didn't exist 10 years ago, but you need to pull out translating devices and there's a lot of room for confusion. But if you're dealing with people who have traveled abroad extensively or have studied abroad, then their level of English is pretty high generally.
So let me also ask you a couple of questions, and this is for the audience. This, as you could tell, is not rehearsed. So stand by and buckle up. So to what extent, this is kind of a stupid question, but it comes to my mind. So to what extent are Chinese people like yourself bald?
Are Chinese people bald?
Yeah. I mean, or is it just a Western thing?
No, it's not a Western thing, but I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something that really made my day when I moved there is someone said to me, "Oh, you're a bald man. Oh, that's a sign of intelligence." I'm very pleased with that comment. But certainly there people have hair loss in China. Good question. Good
Okay,
question.
and so what about the beard and that and facial hair? Is that common? I mean, you think of the old Chinese movies with the guys are tough guys have little, you know.
Well, again, another interesting question. So I've seen these things evolve over time. So when my mother-in-law first saw that I had a tattoo, she was horrified. She thought I was part of some mafioso group or something along those lines. And now it's become fashionable. So it's very common to see tattoos.
Okay, so what's the tattoo? Can we see it?
You can't see it. It would involve removing. But I do have my Chinese name written in Chinese calligraphy on my arm as well. But you know, those are acceptable, more acceptable mainstream things. It's becoming more liberal in the culture side of things, accepting, especially in the bigger cities. But I have had students say to me they need to cover up when they go back to their hometowns to see their mothers or. But anyway, back to the facial hair. Sorry, facial hair. First of all, less. I don't know if it's genetics or what, but less people are able to grow full kind of beards. But you do see it more common now, and you do see Western people having beards and it being more accepted. It wasn't as accepted. My wife always says, "Oh, you look too old with the white," but then her mother says, "I look wise." Maybe that's the bald part. I'm not sure. But good
No,
question.
it's the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife thinks I look too old with this too, but you know,
You look
I
fine.
don't think so. So okay, let's get to reality here. In Shanghai, then some of the beautiful pictures, the PR pictures that we see, beautiful clear day, and the big, very in the in that part of Shanghai that is along the river and the bend, where all the tall structures are. In particular, that big modern-looking structure. Have you been up in that?
I certainly have. There's a great video which your listeners might find amusing, and they're a group on YouTube called Mama Hoo Hoo, and Mama Hoo Hoo means very average. Everything's very average, but they're a comedy group, and they actually do a great skit about how tourists come to visit. People come to visit you, and you feel obliged to take them up this Pearl Tower, and you feel obliged to go and do the sights. And they show the guy and his enthusiasm waning over time. So he's like, oh God, I've got to go up that Pearl Tower again, and I've got to do this. It's quite interesting. But that area, sorry, is a financial district of Shanghai. It didn't exist from in the 1990s. It was fishing area. It was completely flat. So it shows you the progress, the amazing progress over such a short space of time, that it's now grown to be this iconic skyline that we all recognize, and that's called the Pearl Tower, which is great. Some of the other towers, though, are much taller, and when you go up them, the view and the sheer size, it's just an enormous city that goes on as far as your eyes can see.
Now, going back in time, in history, economic history in particular, the foreign powers had set up across the river in the old part, right?
Yes.
The very European part, what's south of that river?
Yeah, so my wife and I lived in an area called the French Concession, the old French Concession, and it's fabulous because all of the architecture is sort of French style to it, and you had hit on the fact that I've spent a lot of time in Vietnam. You see a lot of that there with the French influence.
Indochina, yeah.
Yeah, but just great. Much I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, some of it is being torn down as sort of money grabs to put up these enormous apartment blocks, and that's just a reality. I mean, but some of the architecture is just stunning and really, really wonderful to see. But yeah, those were areas occupied by the French, occupied by the Brits at times. And some people take offense to it still being called the French Concession, but it's now referred to as the old French Concession, and it's just a wonderful area.
Very interesting, Dr. Andrew Woods. So what do you have your PhD in?
I studied Chinese entrepreneurship, so I looked at elements of Guangxi, actually, which we spoke of, but looking at sort of different avenues to creating businesses, different financial models, a lot of research, a lot of challenges, because if you do a conventional PhD in North America, you have much more access to information, or in Europe. So this information was hard to come by in some areas. And interviews, of course, people don't want to say things that are controversial. So it was very difficult to take the bias out of interviewing. But we looked at little bits of how corruption enters in. And again, when you start going down those topics, you find that your list of people that are volunteering for interviews shrinks very quickly. But it was a lot of areas to do with entrepreneurship, and that's what led to sort of teaching entrepreneurship in China. And might I say, they taught me, I didn't teach them, the incredible businesses that some of my students created. I mean, they were just amazing people with a high drive, amazing work ethic, and very innovative. A lot of people say China lacks innovation. That's changing. I mean, there's a lot of innovation that I witnessed, and certainly becoming known for that.
Great. Paul, could we please see one of those video clips? Doesn't matter which one. One of them is about helping American and European and from other countries business people enter the business market and sell their products efficiently to 400 million customers. So your side hustle is involved in this kind of an enterprise, isn't it?
I correct you, and I say not 400 million, 1.4 billion.
Oh,
Got the billion part on there.
I can't even imagine. I'm not good in math.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, if you can set that up, Dr. Andrew Woods and I will have a dialogue.
Way into Jabe Supermarkets, which is a chain of 130 grocery stores and 11 hypermarkets. They also have 300 convenience stores across Zhejiang province. So as you can see, I'm wearing my Canadian hat today because we are promoting a true Canadian craft beer from Central Brewery in Vancouver, which is called Red Racer. You might be familiar with it. Anyway, we're going inside and we're setting up a large booth and we're going to promote the beer. Hello. We're going to promote the beer to Chinese living in Zhejiang province and get their feedback, whether they like it or whether they don't like it. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so here we are in Ningbo, China. We are testing the Red Racer Session IPA. We're also testing bottles and cans of the product. We've had some incredible feedback. It looks like we've got some people that want to buy the product already. In fact, we've told them it's not yet for sale. We've had a lot of disappointed people. So right now it looks like the Session IPA is the most popular brand that people are looking to buy, followed very closely by the regular IPA, which is also proving very popular, but some people have said it's a little bit too strong, or Tainan, which is Chinese for too strong. They think it's a bit too strong. So I think this is the clear winner today. And another piece of information, the people prefer cans if they are taking it to their houses, but they prefer cans if they're taking it to their houses, and they prefer bottles if they're drinking in a nice fancy restaurant, because they think that they look classier, they look more appealing. So right now, definitely bottles are where it's at, but cans are quite popular for people to take home. They prefer taking cans home. And so far, the women are choosing the Session IPA and saying that it's the best one that they've tasted so far today. And the men seem to be liking the traditional IPA. So we'll see if this trend continues. And in third place right now, we have the Pilsner. Red Racer Pilsner is in third place. So it's about 50-50 on this particular product. But definitely the two IPAs, we're seeing a split among the women, Chinese women and the Chinese men. Okay, we're just leaving after a full day of beer tasting in Jabe Supermarket here in Beilun, which is a suburb of Ningbo, China, in Zhejiang province. And the company that we're with today is Jabe, which is a supermarket chain with over 130 grocery stores around Zhejiang province, 300 convenience stores, and several hypermarkets, which are about 50 times the size of this supermarket. As you can hear, it's very noisy. There's a lot of people. It's a shopping day. It's crowded as always, but a great amount of feedback. And it looks very much like this product is going to be placed in this store. So if you are a Canadian company, a British company, European company, whatever, and you want the opportunity to have your product listed in China, we can help you. You want to build a brand in China. Don't just dump it off to a distributor. We can help you build your brand here so it's as strong, if not stronger, than in your home country. There are 400 million middle-class Chinese that are able to buy your products. There is a kudos in Western products. So if your product is good, it might have a chance here.
So One Belt Road, that's the name?
onebeltoneroad.co.uk. And what One Belt One Road is it's the original name for Idai Ilu, which is the Chinese version, One Belt One Road. And it's the initiative, rather like the Marshall Plan, but multiple times larger, of China building out and helping developing countries to build their infrastructure. So it's controversial in the Western world. It's been viewed as controversial, and there's been a lot of talk about debt trap diplomacy and what have you. But the intention is to help countries to develop to use the excess capacity in China to develop. So they changed it to a Belt and Road Initiative. It was funny because the initial acronym didn't, get you speak about people's level of English. Well, whoever came up with the initial idea, they had the BARF Forum, BARF, which was Belt and Road Forum, but somebody came along and said, no, we can't. It was the BARF Forum. And then they changed that. And of course, a lot of that in China, you see a lot of direct translations that are referred to as Chinglish, which is quite humorous to us. But I admire the Chinese for those that the level of English that they have, because it's much higher than the average American's level of Chinese.
So let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, let me say that I really think it's a really good idea to show the closed captions because of the distractions and all the action going on during the video. Excellent for you. Thank you. Now, so this is a side business of yours to be a consultant?
Yeah, it takes up a considerable amount of time, actually. So I mentioned in that particular video the grocery chain. So that's a family connection, which is fabulous in China, because that you've got the trust element there. So they have 130 plus grocery stores, and some of them are very large, and the hypermarkets are massive. They're just like what you'd see in France, the big, massive hypermarkets.
Yeah, Carrefour or something.
Yeah,
Walmart.
Or Walmarts, these huge, or Wegmans in the US, these kind of big chains, massive, massive, massive. And my wife's uncle said, we'd like to develop our Western kind of sections of the shop. So we've been bringing over, I have a lot of contacts from my time in the UK. So we've been bringing over British products, bringing over Canadian products, American products, but primarily in the FMCG space, like the fast moving consumer goods. But we've also been helping consult for technology companies, education companies. So a lot of people looking to enter the market, and we don't profess to be experts in every area. And if we're not, we partner with people who are, to ensure that, we're getting the right information to the people. I mean, there's a lot of incredible opportunities. And of course, we also have the ASEAN connection, where we help in particular in Vietnam, which is kind of where China was 10 or 15 years ago. So it's just like double-digit growth, incredible opportunities everywhere. So these, and China still has, multiple opportunities.
Well, thank you. Paul, if we could show that ASEAN, that red, yeah, that's it. Please describe better what we're looking at.
Oh, sure. I mean, so that's a logo that we've put together for ADW China ASEAN Consulting Group, which is the company. And that's just the China flag, and that's the ASEAN flag. So it's just the two flags. So you're looking at China, and then you're looking at countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, all developing rapidly. I mean, they keep saying it's the Asian century, and a lot of these countries are developing rapidly with multiple opportunities across them.
So I noticed you mentioned Laos. In English, in my English, I would say Laos. So Laos is better?
I used to say Laos as well, until I came across some people from Laos who said Laos. So I thought they were better equipped to how to pronounce it. So we've changed our pronunciation.
All right. Well, that's cool. An education.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
So, Paul, can we go to the second video clip? This is very different. And as an introduction, let me just say that I looked at it yesterday for the first time, and I was just enthralled. First of all, Dr. Woods is going to take us on a ride as he explains what's going to go next. Here we go.
Hi there, Andrew Woods here, just in a taxi on the way to Emlyon Business School to give a presentation on entrepreneurship and all of the incredible opportunities available to the students now in 2018. All the opportunities, all the things that they can do if they have a positive mindset. So we're just in the taxi now, Shanghai, China, on our way to Emlyon Business School.
Just had an absolutely fabulous 48 hours working with some of the most interesting, dynamic, and engaging students I have ever come across in China. I'm here at Emlyon Business School, which is a French business school partnered with East China Normal University here in Shanghai. And we had the opportunity to talk about entrepreneurship and some of the most exciting, intriguing ideas came from these students. And they are currently working on business planning, financial planning, and just generating some amazing ideas, embracing the digital culture. And I really, really think that these students are going to have some amazing companies in the future and will be the new Jack Ma's, Pony Ma's of China going forward. Really amazing time.
Energy in that room was phenomenal. These students had some amazing questions. A lot of them already have their ideas. It was a mixed audience. It was Chinese and also students from all around the world that wanted to express their desire to run their own business, and a lot of them wanted to run their business in China. So, you know, I think I was very honest with them. I told them it's not easy. You need to adapt your way of thinking. You need to appreciate other cultures and other ways of doing business. But at the end of the day, if you work, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's enjoyable running your own business in China. And certainly every day is different. You learn constantly because what you were expecting people to do from being brought up in the West world or your Western way of thinking, it's completely different here. So you're constantly learning. And to me, it's just so exciting. But the questions were so well thought out, and I hope I answered them well. You know, I hope I read about some of these guys running some big businesses in China in the future.
So bravo. So they looked like kids, high schoolers, but they're probably not.
No, actually they were master's students, that particular group. The ones in the classroom were undergrads. The ones in the classroom I was teaching, but the ones I was dealing with one-on-one were master's students. Yeah.
Fascinating. So what are they into? Are they all into tech?
They're all into tech. And I used to think it was a China thing because I lived there for so long. This constantly glued to the telephone and the devices and the unable to disconnect from the internet. But actually, it's a global thing. I've realized that since my return here. But yeah, definitely. Well, here we've got two of them on the go today. No, I realize that, but fabulous ideas and much more advanced in certain areas. So, in China, they leapfrogged certain things. So laptops, maybe not as popular. Everything's done on the phone and geared towards phone usage. Credit cards never really became a thing. They leapt over that and went directly to paying via the cell phone. So a lot of things they sort of leapfrog over. They learn from other places, and then in many cases make it better.
So by leaping pay by phone means touch pay, or just do transfer right from my phone to.
Yeah, so you'll go in everywhere. We'll have WeChat Pay or Alipay, and you just basically tap your phone or scan a QR code. And I don't know if you've seen recently, and it was in the news this past week, that they have QR codes in the sky. They've been advertising using drones. And think about the
That's great.
attention to detail that it takes to get them all in the right place to do QR codes. So the Hyundai Genesis, I believe, is the car they were launching, put a QR code right in that iconic skyline that you've seen. And another video game company did it as well. And now they're doing it in Guangzhou as well. They've been sort of competing
So that means like there's broad 5G in the sky?
No, they have QR codes, so people can actually scan the sky to get access to whatever the product is or their website. I mean, in many respects, the technology there is because in some ways there's less barriers to entry, so the technology is more advanced. I mean, I still go to the bank with checks from time to time. Now that I've come back to Vancouver, my wife's checks. What is that? Like people go with a piece of paper to the bank and physically line up. So, so technology is quite advanced. They're very fast moving and adapting, and they're very, as a general rule, open to change.
So what about security of the QR code in the sky and all this electronic stuff? Yeah.
My observation, they have the same challenges that we have of, viruses and hackers and sophisticated scams. And, I was kind of insulated from that because my level of Chinese is quite poor. So when they would call me trying to dupe me out of money, I would say, I didn't speak Chinese, and that would be the end of the conversation. But here, of course, coming back to Vancouver, you get that. I don't know if they do it in the US too, but you get the government agencies phoning you that are actually, trying to just fish for your information. And so a lot of the things that happen here happen there. But I think I was a little bit more insulated from those issues when I was there.
So I'm thinking that the next time some bill collector calls or some scammer calls, I should learn something in Chinese and say, no speak of the language.
Yeah, I think you'll do very well. You learn a number of different languages and learn how to say, I don't understand you. And I think
So let's now talk about what you're teaching in Vancouver, BC.
Okay.
And who are your students today?
Well, this is interesting for me because, being heavily concentrating on mainly Chinese, a little bit of Vietnamese, and of course French with the French school. The transition coming to here, where I'm working for a college called Cornerstone here in Vancouver, and it's an international private college. but the vast majority of the students come from Latin America and South America. So I'm learning a whole new, I don't know what cultural dimensions or what you want to say, but I'm learning how to apply all of the things I've studied in culture and, Hofstede, cultural dimensions, etc. I'm learning to apply that to a whole new group of people. So it's fascinating because how I'm almost been programmed over the last few years to deal with scenarios completely different now, dealing with these different new cultures to me. So it's great. It keeps me on my toes. But my role here is I teach some soft skills classes. So I teach, short courses on leadership, sales, development, cross-cultural communication. But moreover, I act almost as a recruitment person. So I go out and I talk to, which satisfies my business side while also satisfying my love of education. So I go out and I talk to local business and I say, I've got wonderful international students. And then I find out what jobs they're looking to fill, and then I find the right students and match them to those positions.
Well, okay, describe what we're looking at here, please.
I think you're just looking at the website for the college, Cornerstone College here in Vancouver. Wonderful school, private college, taking students from really all over the world, 70 odd different countries, I believe. But the whole program is geared towards academic training, practical training in a classroom, followed by applying that into workplace scenarios. So taking
that is great,
and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just
so
caring.
Talk to us, if you can, if you're able to, well, first of all, let me ask you, are you doing classroom stuff or is it all online?
Oh, we still have the government here has a policy where you're allowed to have some students in class. And we have to follow rules and regulations. They must sanitize their desk and, put alcohol on their hands and, follow those kind of rules. But we're quite strict on the policies and, everyone has to be masked. So they're, everywhere around the building, people are masked, but the vast majority call in via Zoom. But there's some people that just love that human touch. So we have limited spaces where you can book to come in line, and everybody's in person, and everybody's socially distanced. So it's very responsibly done. And it's great for the teachers, right? Because some teachers, thrive off having a little bit of an audience as well to interact with. So
yeah.
On in the pandemic, it was 100% Zoom in some classes, so that was a little bit more challenging. But we didn't get hit as we're struggling now a little bit more, but certainly the pandemic was not as severe in British Columbia or Vancouver, British Columbia, and the area as it was in other parts of Canada and certainly in the US. And now we're in a battle where our third wave is starting to spike, but the vaccines are starting to get into people's arms now. So it's kind of it's a waiting game, but I think we're on top of it. And I'm really looking forward to when we're fully opened and I can attend some of your wonderful conferences in person, and it can also be
me too. So it's been a year and a half since we've done anything live. So I've had both vaxes, and I feel great, and have so far remained healthy. So, and it's like a feeling of liberation. I think everybody should get vaccinated. Those who can. I know some people, because of allergies, can't do it. They have to find an alternative. So anyway, what are you going to be doing in May and June in terms of in Vancouver, BC, in your classroom? What are your focus courses in coming up in May and June?
Well, for me, I'm doing a series of leadership classes. Now, these are bite-size classes because the bulk of my work is going out to employers and matching employers with potential international students.
Ah, good.
So, I'm on the road a lot, out talking to people, but I'm going to be teaching short classes on leadership for this month because the students in some of the various, so we teach at this campus, we teach hospitality, customer relations, and international business. We have a tech campus as well, which teaches, web design, mobile app design, various elements associated with tech. And Vancouver's quite a tech city. There's a lot of smaller
And Microsoft's there,
and now larger corporations settling
yeah.
here.
Yeah. So let me ask you, if I may,
Sure.
about your hospitality thing. That industry's been decimated the past year or so, and yet it looks like it's going to open up once more people are vaccinated. But so, what are you teaching now?
Well, they're actually, their topic right now is leadership, but they move into different topics. It might be housekeeping, it might be, and they're month-long courses followed by a test and then an exam, and then they move on to the next course in a 6-month, 12-month kind of modules. And it's basically equipping them with knowledge, terminology, and a lot of practical stuff. So another element to my own role is I bring in guest speakers. So we do something called Cornerstone Talk, where I've brought in, for example, the last one we had on Wednesday was the CEO of Grant Cardone Canada. Grant Cardone being the famous real estate investor and sales guru and many other things based out of Miami, I believe. And I got in touch with their Canadian branch. Another gentleman in Darren Jacklin, who's a local Vancouver philanthropist and an incredible speaker. He was just amazing. And we've had people from large companies here. They come in, different speakers, to give their take on the global situation, on the local economy, on how they got to where they got. And these are called Cornerstone Talk. I do something else called Cornerstone Focus, where we bring in people to do short courses on a Saturday. Usually it might be sales, it might be marketing techniques. And again, I go around to the top companies and pick the best people. And generally they're quite receptive to come in and talk to the students, and the students love it. And they've got loads of great questions. So it's wonderful. And you know what? It keeps me in the education space, which I love. But I'm also very, as you know, keen on helping Canadian businesses and American, British, whoever it might be, to enter China and or ASEAN. So these are kind of my two passions, and I'm running at them both full steam.
If I can just come back to hospitality and the leadership idea, a lot of that has to do with what? Dealing with an international clientele. And so that's like cultural training, language training, behavioral training.
Yes. So the instructors here for hospitality have multiple years. The head of the course is a gentleman who studied in Switzerland and has worked in hotels all over the world, and just is an amazing instructor. Really gives them the realities, the expectations. One of the things I've noticed in Asia and here, and again, I thought it was a China-specific thing, and then I realized it seems to be more of a global thing, is a lack of basic soft skills. So we also give them soft skills, teaching how to write emails that are polite and friendly, and teaching how to communicate, and all these wonderful things that are so lacking in modern society, and crucial for hospitality, definitely.
Well, I think particularly with younger people, but we'll see about that. Okay, so now let's look ahead to making inroads, creating your own demand for your pipeline into China. So this is just off the wall.
Okay,
but
sure.
Let's just say you're going to be talking with some people in London, okay? And so, and I'd be happy to make an introduction if you'd like one, but they have a product of some kind. Maybe it's a special kind of pen, or something. So how would you approach that? And what happens in something like that? I don't want to know your trade secrets.
No,
I just want to know the concept.
Okay, so The first step is a sort of a discovery call, if you will, finding out what they really want to achieve. You know, I said in that video, and I stand by it, is that if you're going to enter the Chinese market, try and build a brand. Don't, if you have the resources and you have the patience, build a brand, because
So does that mean being human, personal?
Oh yeah, but I definitely important, and that leads to take some time, and we train in that. Take some time to learn the culture. So you know, if you go over to China, just because it'll serve you so well to understand a little bit of the culture, a little bit about how business is done and conducted, so that you don't make any mistakes to alienate your target market, or the people you want to do business with. One of the things that I saw years ago was that US companies, in particular, European companies as well, would come in gung ho, and they take everything that worked in the US and they try and replicate that. So they bring the HR manual, they throw it on a desk, they translate that into Chinese, and let's go. And they bring in all of the marketing that works in the States perhaps, or in Europe, and they bring that into China, and it wouldn't work. There'd be something that they didn't take the time to consult with the local people and say, how does that resonate with you? So back to your question about the product. So let's say we're talking you gave the example of a pen. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is we have the contacts already in the grocery chain. So if the product were something that could be sold efficiently in grocery, we would do a focus group. We would bring in people and we would say, what do you use a pen for? This is the old how to sell a pen. I'm glad you used that example. What do you use a pen for? What do you look for in a pen? What are the, and we get that data, and then we bring it back, and then we come up with a price point, and then with the beer, we took it one step further. We do the in the store demonstrations to get feedback. But
I saw that, yeah.
Generally, we do the focus groups to get the feedback. And then how that works is that the companies will look at the feedback and they will say, do we want to go for it? So it's an initial stage to see whether you want to go for it. But also, my wife's family looks at it and say, wow, 80% of them said this product looks great. Let's go for it. So it works both ways. So it's a good way, an inexpensive way of dipping your toe in the water.
So in the beer, it's alcoholic to some extent.
Which, sorry?
The beer.
The beer that we had in that particular video?
Yes.
That's full on alcohol beer. Yeah.
So is there an age restriction law?
Not that I know of. I think there's a loosely, but I mean, I'm sure if a 5-year-old walked in and was capable, there'd be not too much difficulty there. And they're very liberal with their alcohol rules. Is that it's sold coming to British Columbia, to Vancouver. It's provincially run, the alcohol stores here, so they have very set hours and very interesting rules about certain times. Like on a Sunday, you can't drink anything before maybe 11 in the morning, or you can't buy anything. So whereas it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, and nobody would ever stop you if you're walking down the street drinking a beer on a hot day, or whereas in the States, they might in certain states, and they certainly would in Canada. You'd have to cover it, so the rules are different there.
Interesting stuff. So in this pen here, which I got at a 99-cent store, it's thick, it's thick. So my hands cramp up when I have this little skinny thing. But on this, I mean, it feels like it's macho,
All right.
And then the ink is, I don't know what it is. It's sort of a soft, I'm not selling you on this, but it's sort of a soft thing. And so rather than a fine point, it's kind of like artsy.
And I think you'll find it probably is made in China. Or one of the other areas we have.
I don't know. I like doing it. Well, Dr. Andrew Woods, this has really been a delight and a very practical education for me, and through me to our audience, I think.
Fabulous.
Please come back and do this again.
I love it. I loved all of our talks and the conferences, of course, which were just amazing. I mean, the crowds, the energy.
I remember that Seattle thing we did.
Oh, that was fantastic. Wonderful audience.
Amphitheater thing sold out. Yeah.
Wonderful audience.
Yeah, I think you had an exhibit, with the company that you were with. I forget, real estate or something.
Yes, no, it wasn't real estate. It was a training company.
A training company.
I
Yeah,
was
right, right.
acting as a consultant for them in Vancouver in a previous time in Vancouver. I came back to Vancouver 2012 to 2014-ish, just to get my wife her PR card and get her familiar with it. And now we've decided that we want to settle here, but still, because it's a lovely city, as you know, we want to settle here, but we want to still be keeping our presence as much as possible in Asia and other places.
So the only place in China I've been to Hong Kong a few times, and
Oh,
then I went to Shenzhen. But it was so long ago that at the time I was printing our California bound relocation guide. I was printing it in um, Hong Kong, but the Hong Kong printer used a plant in Shenzhen. And this was back when there were dirt roads in Shenzhen. and we were escorted by uh, a Chinese soldier who took me and some other people on a business tour. We were in a special rail car from downtown Hong Kong up to Shenzhen. It's not very far. And then we were escorted around Shenzhen, and he gave us a tour, and he was pointing out what companies were going to be over there. And this dirt road with water in it at the time wasn't going to be there anymore. And everybody was going, yeah, sure. And so now Shenzhen is huge.
So Shenzhen was a fishing village in 1979, and Deng Xiaoping, who was the leader of China at that time, coined the phrase "Gai Ge Kai Feng," which means opening up or opening up to the world, basically opening up anyway. And Shenzhen was one of the cities sort of picked at the time to develop, and it has developed phenomenally. I mean, it's a mega city now, and it's just and it's sort of it's although Beijing incredible tech presence, it's the Silicon Valley of China, and then that whole area now, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, is referred to as the Greater Bay Area.
Greater Bay with Macau and that whole area, right?
And it's going to be and is already an economic powerhouse. So I mean, there's so much opportunity there if people. But I just can't stress enough what I said is that if you're going to do business in Asia, in China in particular, take the time to understand the culture. Take the time to know. Don't think what works in my home country is going to work there, and it will go so far and serve you so well. I had a wonderful relationship with many Chinese people because I took the time to ask questions, to understand the culture, to study the history, so that I could quote things that from previous dynasties that was impressive to them, and they were happy that I was taking the time, not telling them how to do business, but learning from them, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and long will it continue.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Andrew Woods, for being on Global TV Talk Show, and I welcome you back. You take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.